Hello, Bronx friends and neighbors, and welcome to Bronx Talk. We've got a two-segment show for you today. Both segments are about the Bronx's Hunts Point. We'll start with the Greater Hunts Point Economic Development Corporation and the Fulton Fish Market, and we'll focus on their plans to dramatically alter the methods of transporting goods in and out of Hunts Point that would have dramatic positive effect on Bronx air quality. It's about time. In our second segment, we'll talk about manufacturing in Hunts Point through the eyes of the Yula Corporation, a company that this year is celebrating a full century of business, 100 years of business in the Bronx. To get started, please join me in welcoming the Executive Director of the Greater Hunts Point Economic Development Corporation. It is Donald Eversley. Nice to see you, Mr. Eversley.
Happy to be here.
And the Chief Executive Officer of the Fulton Fish Market Cooperative is Nicole Ackerina. Ms. Ackerina, nice to have you with us.
Thank you so much.
Let's just start with you, Mr. Eversley. The Hunts Point Development Corporation was founded in 1988. You know all this.
Sure.
And for over 3 decades has served as vital support to the Hunts Point Industrial Zone. You brought this up in our previous discussion. We just mentioned it. I was not aware that Hunts Point EDC is an affiliate of Urban Health Plan.
Yes. So
now that's interesting. Of course, we know the people at Urban Health Plan. It's one of the best organizations in the Bronx. Why and how and what effect does that have?
Well, as you said, Greater Hunts Point EDC has been around for over 35 years, starting out as a conduit for federal, state, and local funding to the 3 wholesale food markets. Flash forward 30 years, and the organization had lost some funding, and the executive director was headed towards retirement. And it was an opportunity for the board to consider the best way forward and whether to keep the organization going, maybe move in a new direction. And there was an opportunity to partner with Urban Health Plan, which was founded nearly 50 years ago, in much the same neighborhood. And our CEO, Paloma Hernandez, was also on the board of Hunts Point EDC, and we did kind of a nonprofit version of a merger.
It really made sense for 2 organizations. Right. For me, we talk about collaborations on the show all the time. It's a very healthy thing, and it's very healthy in the Bronx, where there's often lack of resources to work together.
And if I could just mention, it is a bit of a trend in terms of large healthcare organizations taking a role in community development. Montefiore Hospital, here in the Bronx, has its own community development corporation, the Marshallou Development Corporation, which runs the Jerome Avenue bid.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So how are you doing? How are we doing?
We're doing great.
We're doing great.
So
everybody put a check mark there.
So
yes.
I have 2 roles. I'm an executive at Urban Health Plan, where I focus on building and financing health facilities. But I had a background previously in my career in economic development, both here in New York, in Rhode Island, and Connecticut. So after being with Urban Health Plan for about a year, our CEO asked me to take a look at Hunts Point EDC and see what we might do different, how we could hit reset. We did a couple of things. First of all, we changed the name and added Greater Hunts Point, so we could embrace a broader area than what people think of Hunts Point proper. The peninsula. Yeah. So we also embraced Port Morris, Longwood, Soundview, adjacent areas of what I like to call industrial South Bronx.
And that's very smart, because those things are integrated and they all feed off each other.
Right.
And the peninsula is not isolated, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Local workforce development, entrepreneurship, sustainability, transportation, housing, you get involved in all that.
So, yes. And, our website, if you just Google Greater Hunts Point EDC, you'll find it. We are particularly concerned over the last couple of years with the environment and sustainability on one hand, and workforce, getting our people to work and getting them trained in appropriate ways where they're going to qualify for local jobs. On the sustainability part, we've been involved in an initiative called Bronx is Breathing, which is a partnership of a number of organizations, including Volvo, all about helping local fleets move to electric trucks.
Electric, and then we're going to talk about the next step. But let's bring Ms. Ackerina. Nice to have you with us. Fulton Fish Market Cooperative is the nation's largest fish market and state-of-the-art food distribution center. Formerly the new Fulton Fish Market, and it's been serving New York City for more than a century, 1822, do the math. It's almost 2 centuries. Just talk to me how you're doing.
Sure, absolutely.
What's
We're
going on
officially
there?
204 years old, and we officially just celebrated 20 years in Hunts Point. We're doing well. We're doing super well. About 3 years ago, I joined as the Cooperative's first Chief Executive Officer, and I was brought in with the intention of kind of creating the future for the Fulton Fish Market. Both reinventing ourselves, but not changing who we are too much from the original brand. There's a edginess and a grittiness that comes with who we are, and we want to maintain that through these changes. So we're in the process of developing a port as part of the Blue Highway system, as part of the Blue Highways initiative with the City of New York, and we're also starting a variety of new initiatives to include events, programming to include tours, workforce development, education, and an arts program.
We're going to talk about all that. There's a picture there of kind of like the new port. So let's start with this whole idea. They call it a blue highway. That and people in the Bronx are going to be like, wow, we really want this because we got to get the trucks off the street, and it's been destroying our lungs for generations. So what is the plan? And is it possible to move all that fish back and forth with boats?
Not quite all of it, where we're going to move some of it. So basically the operation is divided into 2 separate barge systems. One for the movement of aggregates. That operation alone will reduce truck traffic in the area by 1,000 trucks per month.
Wow.
Once it's fully operational, which we anticipate this spring. And then separately, the food and beverage side of it, it's roll-on, roll-off service. So basically, trucks will be able to board in other places, drive directly onto the boat, and then drive off into Hunts Point, or the opposite, outgoing. Separately, we're also looking at bringing in ships directly to port, as well as moving products down and throughout the city. We did a pilot in December where we moved seafood product by barge to Pier 17 in the seaport, and then moved it from the boat to the tin building by electric cargo trike. So we're looking at last mile freight as well.
You feel like now look, I did the numbers here. It blew my mind, and I've been working in the Bronx, as people know, for a very long time. Approximately 13,000 to 15,000 trucks moving in and out of the Hunts Point Food Distribution Center a day.
I would actually bet it's probably more than that.
13,000.
It's a whole lot of trucks.
Listen, we know what has been going on, but when I saw that number, that is just
a lot of
ridiculous number. How much impact to start do you see this process having?
There's and what people have to remember when that number sounds large. Remember, we're talking about 24 hours a day. So there's a lot of trucks that are coming in and out 3 o'clock in the morning when you're asleep.
She knows that.
So it never.
The fish market is open all night.
Stops. There's no question that the South Bronx in general has very high rates of asthma and other respiratory diseases, and we suffer not only from the high level of local truck traffic, but also the Bruckner Expressway, the Cross Bronx Expressway. It's a lot.
Don't we know it in the Bronx?
So this is a step, and we think it's important. The Blue Highways Initiative is something that planners have talked about in the New York, New Jersey area for years, because there's a lot of use of the waterways coming from overseas with big containers.
Of course.
But the opportunity is when those cargoes are broken down, they usually go on a truck. And if you could use the waterways the same way we're using the ferries,
I was just going to say, New York City Ferry turned out to be
a home run,
successful.
Right.
How many cars are we ready to say how many cars we could reduce soon, and then what is the long-term plan?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've seen different. I'm going to say let's hold on that, because there are some projections But my position is, even if we take 100 a month, we're way ahead. And also, as Nicole mentioned, it's not just blue highways. It's a combination of blue highways transitioning from internal combustion propulsion to electric.
Yes.
And then for the last mile, trikes, human-powered bikes, because so much of the high-end foods, from all three markets go to lower Manhattan, where it's actually advantageous to have cargo trikes and bikes.
All of it makes sense. It's going to take time. Before we run out of time, Ms. Ackerina, I do want you to talk a little bit about the events.
Sure.
Because it's a changing nature, and then we're going to ask you about a welcome center. These are all really exciting. I guess my objective here, my agenda, is to show people that it's changing. It's not what you thought it was. It's now moving to the future. So
Thank
go ahead,
you.
let's talk about events.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so we're looking to actually bring people to the fish market. The fish market in Japan is known for being a tourist destination, and we'd like to do the same with our fish market here in Hunts Point. So with that comes tours, but we're also starting events. We held a Valentine's Day event on the 14th called Oysters and Absinthe, and then we also held a storytelling event back in October, and then later this month we're holding a Celtic event with celebrity chef Brian Duffy and Bronxnet veteran Baron Ambrosia is our host.
I know Baron, sure.
Yes. But we're excited to bring people in. Everybody seems to be quite amazed by the landscape within the market, and it's kind of a New York City hidden gem that we're looking to expose.
And when they sat there on Valentine's Day and they got the fresh food, the fresh fish and the fresh food, I couldn't get there. As I told you, I wasn't able to make it. But from people who were there, they just had a ball.
Thank you. We brought in hot tubs for the experience.
On a similar vein, I want to talk to you about this welcome center.
Yeah,
which one? We've got a picture of it, and I was going, "Wow, we're really moving the old-fashioned Hunts Point into something new."
Hunts Point is evolving, and what you're referring to is the first electric freight charging center and welcome center, charging station and welcome center.
I love how you combined the
Right.
environmental need with a welcome center. Go ahead.
So part of the Bronx's Breathing Initiative is to build, along with the city, the first charging station on the East Coast that services electric trucks. So a filling station for electric trucks, if you will. And since trucks will sit there for a period while they're charging, the welcome center aspect is there'll be amenities for drivers, and as well as facilities for training and other types of activities that'll benefit not only drivers, local residents, and people who are interested in working in the point.
And you know what I love about that? I love about the fact that it will make not only the truckers, but companies welcome to come to Hunts Point, because this is a place to really want to see. I want to do a personal thing about Hunts Point. I went to Inspiration Point, which is also on Hunts Point, right on Garrison Avenue. I just want to show you some pictures. This is a nonprofit cultural arts center in Hunts Point neighborhood, provides space, resources, and opportunities for creative expression. There's a fashion gallery, Wallworks, the Tiffany Street Theater, open studios of artists and residents. This is a real exciting place to be. You guys are like, people have heard about Hunts Point. They know about Hunts Point. This is exciting. So we're going to give you each a chance to make a last comment.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This is not your father's or grandfather's or mother's Hunts Point. We all know about the notorious activities under the Bruckner. We all know the gritty past. We have
that HBO series was not so complimentary.
The Inspiration Point you mentioned is actually a wonderful live-work campus that replaced the notorious Spofford Juvenile Detention Center. That is gone. We have two great new parks, Barretto Point and Riverside Park. There's many things that will welcome you and are positive for our borough.
Other than to buying food, Hunts Point is all of a sudden becoming a new destination. Let's talk about Fulton Fish Market. What's your final words to the people?
Final
of the Bronx?
words, I would love for everyone to join us for our events. We're holding one at the end of this month on the 28th of March, and we'll be holding a bunch more before the end of the year.
Listen, you guys are great, and I appreciate you popping in here to tell
Thank you.
people. To me, it's only the beginning, and we're just, I'm just thrilled because as you know, I've been doing this a long time, and I've covered this, and it's just great. Thank you, Donald
Thank you
Eversley
so
from
much.
Greater Hunts Point EDC, and Nicole Ackerina from the Fulton Fish Market Cooperative. We'll be right back with Yula Corporation. Talk about your father's corporation. We'll do that right after this.
We're going to start the show right now. This is my favorite part. Ready in 5, 4, 3, 2. Hey, this is Angel, and I am one of the instructors for the in-studio production. Here at Bronxnet, we offer classes that can help you elevate, expand, and start your television career. All you have to do is sign up at bronxnet.org/education. For the past 7 years, I have been in various productions, spanning from talk shows, independent films, news reports, art displays, teachings, musical performances, and many more. Ain't that right, Angel? Yeah, you're absolutely right, Angel. There are a lot of creative individuals that we're just waiting to sign up for the class. And if I may, can I also express thank you, Angel. That's all the time we have left. Visit bronxnet.org/education and become a producer by taking the course. The class I offer is also in English, en español y también bilingüe. Nos vemos en la próxima clase.
Welcome back to Bronx Talk. Please join me in wishing a happy 100th birthday to the Yula Corporation and co-founder and co-president Matthew Feldman. Nice to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
100 years. What is the secret? Now, let's see, you've been manufacturing custom heat exchangers since 1926. What is the secret that has kept the continuity and the fact that the company didn't fail anywhere along the way, whether it was the Great Depression in the 20s, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, so I guess our secret is we've really just tried to improve over the years. I'm third generation in the company with my two cousins, and our fathers, they worked in the company from the 70s, each 40 years, and they took the company from really just a standard heat exchanger manufacturer that supplied equipment around the city to a much more global company. So we moved into oil and gas, chemical, high-spec custom equipment. And really, the big move for us was moving into manufacturing for the pharmaceutical market in the 80s onward.
Wow. This is, okay, every day I try to do one dumb question of the day. What actually does a heat exchanger do?
Yeah.
We've seen some of the pictures. You can see some of the modern photos there. But what is a heat exchanger? You were telling me on the phone, oh, we manufacture the heat exchangers we've developed. What do they do?
So it transfers heat from one fluid to another. So historically, like the first heat exchangers we were making back in the 1920s, we took steam supplied by the city, heated hot water for apartment buildings, hospitals, things like that. So you just take two things, you don't mix the two fluids together, you safely heat the water for the building.
I mean, it's the kind of thing that you've been manufacturing quite successfully that I guess every building or, they're in common use. Nobody knows who they are. Congratulations on doing it. What you mentioned the pharmaceutical transition. What is that about? And where do we, sorry, I'm not a scientist. where do heat exchangers come in?
Basically, we're part of the manufacturing line in a pharmaceutical plant. So they use a lot of clean, purified water. They're heating and cooling it throughout their process. So they come to us to buy heat exchangers. They'll say, hey, we have an application. Can you design a heat exchanger for us? So we custom design for each application.
Let's talk about Hunts Point. Now, you were not in Hunts Point originally?
So we've been in the Bronx for 100 years, but we've been in Hunts Point since 1955.
Well, that's a pretty good chunk of change, as we say in the Bronx. What about Hunts Point makes it work for you? And we just had a nice conversation about transporting parts and everything else that you need. But what works? Let's sing the praises.
Yeah, we have access to a great workforce. There's trade schools in the area, so we can always hire talent. It's easy.
So you can hire talent because it's where people go when they do that.
Exactly,
kind of stuff.
And it's easy to ship from our area. A lot of our competitors are in the middle of the country, so it's harder to get product in and out of there.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but we just had a conversation about potentially using the Blue Highway. Is that something that could be considered for your product?
Yeah.
I could introduce you to the guys who were just on the show.
Yeah. Hey, you never know. That would be pretty cool.
It would be pretty amazing. What about personnel? In other words, you need to have trained personnel. Do you find they come from the Bronx? Are they trained in the Bronx? Be honest. I mean, if not, we're going to start a training program.
70% of our workforce lives in the Bronx. So we like to hire locally. That's always our goal. A lot of our employees actually walk to work, which is great. And our philosophy is really training from within. You can only get so far with trade schools. We have very high spec welding that isn't really taught at school. So we hire and train people from within to really meet the standards of the pharmaceutical industry.
I'm just looking at the history. You had told me some of the history, and it's available online if you wanted to look at it. Grandpa took over the company, et cetera, et cetera. What did you learn from it? Was it always understood, well, Matthew's going to take over, or did it just turn out that way?
It actually,
and then ultimately, what did you learn from them that made you able to actually do this? If I inherited that job, I wouldn't know the first thing.
Yeah, so my dad and uncle, they came into the company. They knew from beforehand that they were going to join the company. My cousins and I, we went off and did different things. We got some outside work experience, which was really good just to have that perspective.
In a different industry?
I was in advertising.
Oh, wow.
One of my cousins is an engineer, and the other, he was doing consulting at Deloitte. And having that experience was really helpful. It wasn't assumed we were going to join the company, but we all decided that we did want to join in 2008, all on the same day. The three of us joined, yeah.
And decided to do it. Among the things, you've got to change over time. You've talked about a couple of things. You mentioned to me that you have improved the fabrication process. And I didn't ask you on the phone because, so what is that process, and what went into improving the fabrication process?
Sure. So I would say the second generation, their big mark was moving us into the high-spec industries.
That was
my father and uncle.
Okay.
Our impact on the company has been we've focused on improving the fabrication. So the product itself hasn't changed, but we've really made the process of fabricating it much more efficient. We have new equipment, new machinery. So we did manual machining when we joined in 2008. Now we have CNC machines, which we program on a computer. It's much more efficient, fast.
What is the difference with those machines? I mean, you say it.
I mean, in the past, we would do everything by hand. You know, we'd have a layout, we put on a piece of metal. You'd have someone operating a drill press. Now you have it all programmed, and the machine just runs.
And how do again, I'm not in the construction industry. How do you get your name up, through the development in the construction industry?
Yeah.
So when we have tons of new buildings coming in the Bronx, that they say, oh, let's talk to Yula Corporation.
Yeah. So we tend to talk to the engineering firms. They're the ones that spec the equipment. You have a good relationship with them, and you get in a project early on. You help them spec out a heat exchanger. They eventually come back to you when it's time to purchase.
Wow. As long as you know what you're doing. Are there competitors on Hunts Point of your product?
No.
You're the only ones who do it.
Yeah, there's not too many manufacturers around. It's, we're one of the...
It's one of the discussions I know is going on how to bring manufacturing back to the Bronx. So I'm really curious to ask about advice for other people. We always want people to develop and grow. So I guess there's two levels to talk about. One is how to learn the technical side of it so you can get a job. And then number two, if you really have an interest in starting a company, or, how do you start a company with a plan of 100 years?
Man. That's a tough question. Well, one thing we did that really helped us, we brought in a consultant. It was a lean manufacturing consultant who kind of showed us all of these things that we were actually doing wrong, or things that we can improve. And it was a difficult process. Really, we said at the time, we've been doing this 90 years. Who are you to tell us, that we're doing this wrong? But then we started realizing, okay, we should always try to continually improve. That's really key. You can never just rest on your laurels. So that was COVID. We brought them during COVID. We brought this consultant in, and the last 5 years, really the company has done very well. We've just it's all starting to pay off now, all those efforts.
And there is a big celebration coming up. You invited me. I'm probably going to go. You're going to have a big celebration.
Yeah, we're doing a reception.
100 years.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Listen, Matthew Feldman, co-president of Yula Corporation. I should have had a birthday cake if we didn't do that. But congratulations. Thank you and all your relatives and everybody, all the people who work there, for being an important part of Hunts Point. And we'll see you around town. And if I ever build a building and need one of those products, I'll get it. Okay. We want to thank you for joining us. We want to thank our producer, Ray Pagnucco, our Bronxnet production and editing crew, and of course to you too. It's about the people of the Bronx and Hunts Point. We'll see you next week.